Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on defining your grail or grails within the sports card hobby. Of course, I'll be primarily talking about soccer, but this pertains to any sport or any sort of category, really. If you are trying to improve your collection to a great degree and sort of get yourself down a better path that you're more focused in on, this has been something that's been amazing for me. I've sort of been encouraged by collecting buddies and content creators that are primarily driven by collecting rather than investing. You're not going to see this on like a Jeff Wilson post or something along those lines, but if you're newer, hopefully this can help you out. If you've been around for a bit, maybe you already do this, and if so, that's great. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. If you do enjoy the content generally, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it. If you need to watch to see more and see if you actually enjoy, that's fine too. We'll start with the importance of this. I know I sort of touched on it there, but first, it provides a lot more focus in terms of where you want to go with your collection, especially on some of the bigger purchases. Beyond that, it's sustainable and fulfilling in the sense that you're much more able to go out there and hunt particular things and stay on the hunt if you have a list of the things you are trying to hunt rather than just sort of going on a whim. And it's also much more fulfilling from the standpoint that being able to cross off something you've been hunting for years is a enjoyable experience in and of itself on top of owning the card. So being able to add that factor can't really hurt. Beyond that, of course, improved collection over time if you sort of aim higher and change your heights that you can go to over time, and it maximizes your budget in the sense that it holds you a bit more accountable. If you know that you're going to have to go after some of these big ones every now and then, you're going to be a bit more cognizant of where you are buying sort of on the lower end. We'll talk about some aspects. The first one is time versus money. If you're someone that, you don't have as much money, maybe you have more time, your grails could be something that's harder to find but doesn't cost as much, thus utilizing your time in that manner, being able to find something that maybe other people couldn't find, and it also captivates your collecting hours if you are hunting in that manner. If you have more money than time, then you might go for some grails that are more easily accessible but at higher price points, and there's really nothing wrong with either option. It's just a preference of how you choose to go. Beyond that, I will say research is incredibly important. While I do say that the grails for everyone can be interpreted differently, they should be interpreted with the utmost knowledge going into it when you are formulating that. And of course, whenever you build your first grail list, it will get better over time. It will become more refined. You will be able to figure out more items that you think are worthy and take out others that are not. And so being able to learn that and pick up on those things is important. If none of us learned and we just came into the hobby with the first thing we ever knew, then there'd be a lot of people that just had a full base Prism collection at this point in time. But that's no longer the case because a lot of people have picked up on things. So beyond that, try to have some perspective in terms of what these items will look like in 10, 20, maybe 30 years. If you're someone that plans on having these for a while, what will cause them to gain sort of notoriety? What will happen to cause them to lose notoriety? What is going to really move these over time, or are they going to move at all in terms of really gaining or losing a narrative? I think a lot of people, are caught up in buying modern at this point. And when I use this rear view mirror approach in 5, 10, 20 years, I don't feel great about stuff that people are buying right now, at least, like 2023 product or whatever it may be. Meanwhile, there are other things where I feel like if you look back on them in 5, 10, 20 years, they'll look great. So in terms of defining your grails and sort of getting this down to a list of what it is you're hunting, you're going to have to start broad and work your way down. So you want to define what it is that you enjoy collecting the most, whether it be teams, inserts, sets, eras, players, whatever it may be. Determine which categories you collect and also sort of rank them, at least mentally, in terms of what categories you are the most passionate about, because that's where you're going to draw from more when you're creating your final group of grails. And what I recommend from there is to tier rank each category and come up with the 5 best grails that you want to chase in each category. Of course, this will take a lot of time. You're going to have to do a lot of research into each individual one, what makes sense for you, all that type of stuff. But in doing so, you will then be able to have a nice solidified list once you condense this down. Determining grails can be a pretty difficult process, so something I like to do and something that's helped me has been to sort of make it a formulaic process. This was brought to my awareness by El Rey Collection, great collector, great channel on YouTube as well. Do make sure to give it a peek. But basically, he sort of showed me at least the idea of a card calculator where you can, at least in your own world, make a score for a card based on what you find meaningful and how you rate a certain card. So essentially, there are a ton of different concepts that you are rating, and there's categories of sort of what it breaks down into generally. Of course, you can change the concepts if you have different things that matter to you, or if some of the stuff doesn't even matter to you at all. Say, for instance, like attractive back, that's sort of more meaningful in vintage. License, you're not even really going to have to really worry about that with modern, at least most of the time. Just stuff like that. I mean, there are things that you can take out of this entirely. Then you weight them from 1 to 10 in terms of how meaningful they are to you. For this example here, I just put in random numbers because I don't want anyone copying what I do or thinking that, what I say goes. And then you rank it on 1 to 10 for whatever individual card you are looking at. And then you can get a final score if you multiply the weight times each score that you have. And then you can sort of have a general scale that you're looking at and where things break down. Now, easier said than done, of course. It does take a lot of time, does take a lot of thinking. So find your Grail candidates and rank them according to what you value most, and then beyond that, find out what collectors believe as well are a player's Grails, and acknowledge why that is and compare it to what you believe. So I do want there to be at least some sort of accountability. I think sometimes we live in our own realms too much, where what we say goes or what we think goes. Collecting, of course, is supposed to sort of be your own thing, but at the same time, it is worthwhile sort of understanding why other people think the way they do and being able to make those mental connections. Because there very well could be things that you can learn from them despite not currently thinking the way they do. I will add, in terms of defining these Grails, be unreasonable within reason. So what I sort of mean by that is, don't put a messy black 1 of 1 2014 Prism on here if you don't have the money to go get that, right? You don't want to make yourself depressed chasing unattainable cards, so obviously this goes really without saying, but the main point is, do actually sort of push yourself a bit. Don't make them easy. Make them something that you'll actually have to sort of hunt for or save up for, whatever the case is. And then ultimately combine them all. So an example here, maybe you're a Barcelona guy, you got a ton of Barcelona players that you like. Throw all the names together in a pot and, you'll probably have anywhere from, 10 to maybe 50, maybe 100 items that you're thinking about. From there, hunt your top 10. Put them in a tier list again, or however you want to go ahead and rank them. Maybe just do a draft. Look at all of the Grails that you have in front of you and draft them. What's the very top one that you would want? If you could only have one of them, what would you go after? Then do number 2, 3, 4, and do that all the way to 10. You can even do it a little bit beyond that if you wish. You don't want to have too many Grails, but you also don't want to have too few Grails that are incredibly hard to get, because maybe you won't be able to knock them out. So you want to have a nice medium. I do want to make an important note that this isn't to say that these are the only cards you should buy. Of course, these are sort of Grails or things that you can chase at times. This should more so be things that you are willing to sort of go out of your way for it, maybe spend up a bit, maybe go over comps if you're feeling crazy, however far over comps you want to go, I don't know. But, it should sort of be an occasion. Make that this type of card. And of course, you can collect beyond that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's more so that they can sort of be the North Star in the hobby, something that you can strive for while you are still doing more so your normal hobby activities. A personal example for me, I'll make this fairly quick, but I made a Garincha sort of pyramid. I'm fairly confident on sort of the top end in terms of what I believe to be his best items. Once it gets below there, it's a little bit more up in the air, but there's a lot of 50 stuff that's fairly rare, good looking, all that good stuff. But I made this probably, half a year ago or so at this point. I'd been wanting to do something like this, and Garincha was someone that I was approaching more and more in Vintage, because 1, I like the player, and 2, I also like being able to sort of collect adjacent to Pele and learn a lot about the Pele space, whilst being able to do so with a less expensive but still wildly important player. So after doing a lot of researching and sort of, figuring it out a bit myself and being able to take other people's opinions, these were sort of the main ones that came to mind to me in terms of the Grails. Of course, at the top, we have a couple 53s. We also have this 59 Queagle, which basically there have never really been any of them seen. I have one picture here. I don't know how anyone got it, but yeah, it's a Pop Zero at PSA at the moment. Then you have a 54, some 57s, 58, 56, and a ton of really cool Garinchas. And after I was able to put this together, I was able to sort of focus my sights on Garincha a bit more and be a bit more particular with him. And so after I made that pyramid, I was more so able to focus on which Garinchas it was that I wanted to be able to put my money and attention towards. The first one that came up that was pretty notable to me was the 1958 Americana. This is one that I've always adored for Pele, which is why I had it in the thumbnail. I was actually going to use the Alifa, but it just looks so disgusting, especially for like a thumbnail. Like, you want to make thumbnails look appealing. You want to make them look nice. The Alifa looks terrible, I'm going to be honest. But The Americana, just so good. The colors are amazing. I love the little name tag at the bottom. It is just beautiful. This was, I think, a Pop 6, something along those lines at the time, and so for me, I was willing to go out and get it. I didn't have to pay a crazy number. Of course, a massive, massive discount over what you pay for like a Pele, like 5% of the cost or whatever. So I was happy to go ahead and get one for my Garrincha collection. After that, this was one that popped up, and had I not had this pyramid, I don't think I would have had the confidence nor the desire to go where I did in terms of purchasing this. I didn't feel like I paid a crazy number, but I felt it was also respectable. A 1954 Garrincha to me was insanely appealing at the time, in the sense that you basically never see pre-55s. When I looked on Card Ladder, I was only able to find 2 1954 comps, and one of them was the same exact sticker that had sold during the boom, and another for PSA 2. The PSA 2 had sold for like $10K, and the PSA Authentic Altar that you're seeing on screen had sold for somewhere between, I think, 3 and 4. And so when I saw this, I knew I really wanted it, but I didn't know exactly where it was going to fall. I knew it had sold during the boom, so it was going to be a decent discount beneath that. And luckily, after looking as long as I have and sort of having an understanding on how other things are priced within the Garrincha sphere, I felt like I could place a pretty confident bid at a number that I was happy with. And had I not had the pyramid, I don't think I would have been able to do that, and this might have been something that just passed me by because I hadn't yet decided what it was that I was going after. A pre-55 Garrincha is actually something that was in my top 10. No 53s have ever sold, so a 54 Authentic Altar I think was about as good as I could have hoped for, and luckily enough, it was able to happen. After that, I did get this 1955 Vecchi, which is now a bit of a letdown. I always thought the Vecchi was going to be the first big one I got, but I guess I was lucky enough to be able to see the 54 first, and simply just by making that pyramid and describing where I wanted to go in regard to Garrincha, I was able to get there fairly quickly, I would say. It definitely expedited the process greatly, and is something I would highly recommend for everyone to do, both for players in particular and for your holistic collection as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for defining your grails. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, of course, make sure to leave a like. Would love to hear your thoughts down below in a comment as well. And if you want some more videos like this, as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. Would appreciate it greatly. With that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.